the Old Man Orange podcast. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes with special guest. Sorry, buddy.
Oops, sorry. I'm Buddy. First time.
We got Buddy on here on the podcast. He's been on like the little game files that we've done before, but this is something kind of different. This is like an Old Man Orange crossover episode. Because you might remember Wes Younger, he was on a couple of episodes before. Actually, I guess he was only on one episode. And I was on another episode of his. The Air Force One for his show via VHS. And then he was on the Getaway 1972 retrospect we did. Well, he's putting together some brand new podcasts. And we've come up with one that's the Retro Slam Masters. A good old classic wrestling podcast. And I kept saying that me and Buddy here, we've been talking about it for... I don't know, a couple of months, if not like half a year plus, of like, dude, we gotta sit down, we gotta either do some commentaries on old wrestling, or we'll just watch old shows and just do like retrospects on them or something or another. So I'm glad we could finally come down and do one, and hopefully it'll be an Old Man Orange podcast, but be a crossover to going like, hey, check out Retro Slam Masters, whenever that does come up. I'm not too sure. I'm not putting any dates in stone yet. I know we're supposed to be coming up soon, so it should be all tied together here.
Yeah, I figured just kind of go with the flow and see what happens, and watch some old wrestling, talk some old wrestling, and
exactly.
It's hard to go wrong with that.
Oh my god, no! It's especially too. It's like when you got somebody to watch it with too. It really makes it so much fun. It's just such good times to be had. And I thought the best way to start this off was to watch No Holds Barred, which Buddy graciously gave me a DVD copy that I've always wanted over all these years, and I still have never seen it till right now. And boy, is this something super special. I don't know if it's Thunder in Paradise special, but it's definitely good.
Yeah, well, that's hard to live up to Thunder in Paradise. I actually need to watch that again. It's been a long time.
Did you watch John Morrison's new movie?
I have not seen it yet.
It reminds me so much of Thunder in Paradise. Like that same vibe that I got from Thunder in Paradise. That's what I felt when watching it.
Well, that's what you said, and I bought that copy for you, and I felt kind of lame because I like literally when I got it, John Morris was like, "What's your name, bro?" And I was like, can you make it out to Spencer, actually? And I could tell, like, he had this, like, look of just, like,
oh, that must be his boyfriend, I bet.
Yeah, well, like, it was more like, I mean, I don't think he likes, like, this guy's not a fan, like, fuck off, like, I'll just sign it really quick and get out. I was like, well, Spencer's the biggest John Morrison fan I know, like, so.
Oh, I was excited. That movie's great. Well, we'll have to watch that and do one on there, too, because it was pretty darn cool. And as I said, it reminded me just like Thunder in Paradise, just a little bit goofy, but that's okay.
I know. I actually saw the other day on Amazon. They had the Thunder in Paradise box set for like $4, $5 or $6. I was like, ooh.
When we were living in Modesto, we found that box set like at like a Safeway or a Ralph's or something like that for $4.99. Yeah.
Oh man.
See, I don't. My other buddy had it though, so I just have Thunder in Paradise on VHS.
Oh yeah.
The first one, because that's how it is. The first one is awesome. The second one's kind of just okay, but the third one kind of comes back around again.
I know one of the episodes has Giant Gonzalez in it. I remember seeing that when I was a little kid.
And then there's the TV show, which I probably only seen maybe like 1 or 2 episodes of.
You're talking about the movies. Yeah,
I'm talking about the movie version. That's the ones I was used to.
I didn't even know they had movies about those.
For all I know, they could just be strung together episodes, but I think the first Thunder in Paradise for sure was actually like a movie. I mean, straight-to-video movie.
I know I have at the house, I also have Mr. Nanny and Suburban Commando, like, 2 discs.
The 2-back?
Oh, yeah.
I got Suburban Commando on the singular version. That'd be another fun one, too.
Oh, that's a good one.
But boy, No Holds Barred was something special watching this. Especially for, like, the first time. It's, like, kind of going back. It's like, let's go watch this movie. We can talk all about it.
Hey! Are you looking for a little escape? Want to see something
This is sick!
you don't see every day? Are you ready for a whole new Hulk Hogan? Hulk Hogan is ripped. To the world, he's a hero. But to this man, he's history. Zeus. Stand back. Way back. Get ready for the battle no ropes can hold. No ring. No referee. No rules.
Gentlemen, it's time.
No holds barred.
This is an unprecedented display of strength and determination.
Because this movie actually is, even though I know some people kind of look upon it like, oh, it's just kind of a cheesy, old movie. I'm like, no. This is a big deal movie. One, it's like the first WWE movie ever made. 2,
History.
It's like kind of like, has there any like? I mean, there's probably some other wrestling movies I can think of beforehand.
There's a lot. I mean, like
There's that Stallone movie. Even though he's not wrestling in it, but there's the one where he's like training the wrestler guy. What's that one called? It's called like Paradise or.
I'm not sure.
It's like 80. It's like right after Rocky 1 or 2, like Paradise Alley or something like that.
I know there's some old ones like with AWA and Vern Gagne in them and stuff that are supposed to. There's actually one called The Wrestler from like the '60s, I think.
Oh, that's right.
It's not very good. In my opinion, it's not very good.
Now, there's one I almost want to say that's by the guy who did Starship Troopers and sounds so weird, and RoboCop and all that stuff. I want to say he almost had a movie called The Wrestler from like 1969, but that means it's like a Dutch movie or like over that area because he didn't start making American movies yet. Paul Verhoeven. So I've always wondered what that movie was too.
I'll have to find it. Like there's a lot of like the Lucha Libre movies too. Like back in that time period from like the 80s and 70s they have like Mil Mascaras and El Santo in them that I've never watched because I don't speak Spanish and
yeah, we give subtitles.
We can always have a translator too for us though.
I like it. Like your first thing is like, well, God, it's in Spanish. Nobody saw the subtitle thing yet.
No.
But like No Holds Barred though, it is still like, think about it. That's like the biggest movie to finally like, hey, here it's coming out to the public. Almost anybody can kind of see it. Though, was this movie a theatrical movie or is this supposed to be straight WWE pay-per-view?
I think it did have a theatrical release. I'm
Okay.
pretty sure. I remember listening to a podcast with Bruce Pritchard, and I'm pretty sure he said it actually had a theatrical release, and I don't think it did super good, which shocks me. But
well, I can kind of see that because who knows how big of a theatrical release it might have had too. I don't know because I look at it and it feels like a straight-to-video movie, sort of in a sense.
yeah.
But I guess at the time, there's other movies that are not that far off from that kind of quality.
Well, and honestly, at the time too, like Hulk Hogan was a legitimate, like major star, like crossover star. Like even if nobody watched wrestling, they always knew, oh, that's Hulk Hogan. Like
Yeah.
and even still, like Hulk Hogan that's Hulk Hogan. Like
Yeah, you could never have watched a single wrestling match in your entire life, and you know pretty well who Hulk Hogan is.
yeah, you don't need to know who John Cena is, but you know who Hulk Hogan is.
Yeah, exactly. So there is those kind of characters. So having him in there, the one thing I do think is kind of like weird about it is like they have some other like wrestlers in there, but I'm surprised that they didn't just like fill this movie with all like the big WWF guys at the time and just to really make the movie out there. Like instead, it's kind of like when they get a lot of these other wrestlers, or they don't even get some of these wrestlers. Some of them are just actors that kind of come in and play these parts. But you kind of look and go like, it's either the one. Some of those guys just go like, no, if Hulk Hogan's gonna be in, I don't want to be like the second run guy.
Yeah.
That's what I kind of wondered. You know what I mean?
Well, I know early on, like the first guy they show rip wrestling is Jake Bullitt, which is Billy Eadie, who was, I think at the time he was wrestling as Axe from Demolition.
Yeah.
So it's like weird. When I didn't realize that until I watched it today, I was like, oh, that's Billy Eadie, because he wore makeup at the time, so I didn't recognize it. But I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. The biggest one though in that movie is Stan Hansen's in there. He's the guy who's the he's at the Battle of the Tough Guys. He's the like super Texan guy who's chewing all the time.
Is he the guy that has like the crop shirt on?
Yes. He's the one
who like takes the guys, he's gonna like slam him in the toilet, and then he looks down, he's like,
teeny wangers. I love that. Yeah, but like Stan Hansen was a big star, like not in WWF at all, like ever. I think he wrestled in WWF in like the 70s, but like he's more known now because he wrestled more Japanese men than American men. He was a major star in Japan, and they brought him in just to do that. So it always like it trips me out. Like when I was watching that movie the other day, I was like, why didn't WWF try to bring him in? Like he obviously agreed to do this. Like
yeah, he's already a start.
And he was a major star. Like so he would have been. I don't know at the time like how much the crossover was then.
Yeah,
but he was really good.
Because there's definitely sometimes there's that thing where it's like you could be the biggest star in one sector, but nobody else knows about you just due to like how TV and media kind of worked in that time period.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see why they wouldn't have brought him over, especially for the fact he's in the movie. But it is kind of weird how, like, so then there's some of the other ones where they're just, like, straight up, like, actor guys that are, like, thrown in there to be,
yeah,
like these ones. Like, you get the guy from Friday, what's his name?
Tiny Lister.
Yeah, Tiny Lister is, like, how the other main character played in Zeus. And he's pretty much be the whole Hulk Hogan antagonist in the movie. But the funny thing about it is just, like, I just look at that and I go, like, I mean, I get what they're going, but, like, couldn't you have chose, like, any of your other WWF roster? And, like, I felt like that would have made the bill really big. It's like, you know, probably not, who knows? You could have done it even like Macho Man, but who knows? He probably didn't want to be competing with Hulk Hogan in a movie.
Yeah.
But even if you had Jake the Snake, or if you had...
Well, I think what they were going for sure is, like, they needed somebody who was, like, big and strong, too.
Yeah.
And I think that's why they went with him. Like, it's like you said, at the time, WWF was full of huge bodybuilder guys. But I know this sounds super racist, but there's a lot of weird, like, definitely like stereotypes in this movie. I don't know if you saw or noticed. But I think honestly what they were doing was like, well, it's easier to boo against the black guy, and I think that's what they were going for. But because like even like there's a scene when they went to the bar for the first time, and the girl's like, "Did you guys mean to go to the gay bar?" And like yeah, the gay bar's across
because they're wearing suits.
Yeah, it's just like whoa. Like if you heard that now, you'd be like, "Oh my gosh, I'm offended." But
though it definitely has like that. Well, it's almost like that movie. Like it's weird because this movie walks like this fine line between being like a serious drama. I know that sounds weird, but like it really feels like it was almost intended. Like it didn't really come out that way, but when they're putting it together, you know, somebody felt like this is gonna be a real serious scene right here.
I don't think the movie was meant to be a comedy.
No, and I think, but then it's got like weird kind of wacky comedy in there too, and it's this weird balance. Like it's almost like they're trying to make something. I'm gonna say like almost like a prototype to like The Wrestler, not nearly as sad, but like almost like more like. You could almost say it's like a prequel almost to that. You can almost even picture Mickey Rourke's character as this guy. This is when it was all great, and then later on.
That's what they should do is make a middle gap wrestler movie and be like, yeah, like he's really just ripped.
Well, I kid you not, like when I watched like The Wrestler, the first thing I thought like after watching it, I'm like, dude, I would love to see a prequel to this movie. I know that's such a weird like. Film people would be like, well, wait, why would you make a prequel? I'm like, dude, I just want to see like what's the '80s version of this character, and like let's have like that kind of lifestyle, and then have it go into The Wrestler as the second part.
Yeah, I want to see a movie centered around Wrestle Jam 3.
Yeah, Ram Jam
with the Ayatollah. Well, I even like watched the movie. I watched that movie actually just like last week, and at the beginning when they show all the old wrestling posters, I love it because if you look at some of the names of the wrestlers, I don't remember any offhand besides the Ayatollah. But they were so cheesy, and it was just so like, yeah, I could picture that being an 80s wrestling name. Mm-hmm. And I would love to see a prequel. It's not going to happen, unfortunately.
It's not, I don't think so. I mean, unless, like, Darren Aronofsky really wants to go back to it, because that's kind of, like, known as his biggest movie. Mm-hmm. You know, and people always say it's also, like, this kind of, like, his easiest access movie for people, because all the other ones even are almost, like, weirder. But I would just, like, that was the thing, is, like, 'cause I've watched The Wrestler, like, so many times. I think that movie's fantastic, and I would love just to see more of that. And the No Holds Barred actually kind of gives me that feeling, not, like, in the serious, dramatic aspect of it, but, like, it does. But the weird thing about No Holds Barred, though, is, like, okay, it's got some weird, goofy comedy in it, but then it's also got strange parts in there that, like, throw me off, like, where they almost, like, take something, like, really seriously. It's, like, there's that scene where there's this girl that comes to, like, Hulk Hogan, and it's almost like at first it's just, who is this lady coming in just like here to like question me or whatnot. Then you kind of learn later on, it's like, oh no, she's sent in to try to like lure Hulk Hogan in, to seduce him and so on. And that doesn't really pan out. She almost becomes like his friend in the long run. But there's a part where she comes out of this parking garage and this guy like literally tries to like rape her. And it's like, it's heavy. And then all of a sudden Hulk Hogan pulls up on a motorcycle and then starts chasing him around like it's some Tom and Jerry like skit until the guy finally gets slammed into a tree. And then he leaves him there. This guy who's just like attempted rape is just like free to walk away once he wakes up.
When he's chasing with the motorcycle, it looks so ridiculous. Because, like, he's not, like, dressed like a biker. He's still wearing his little gym muscle tank top and stuff. Like, he just came out of the gym on the motorcycle. And he's always wearing a weight belt. I noticed that in this movie. Like, even when he shows up to the business meeting, he's in a tank top, leggings, and a weight belt.
But it's just so weird. It's like there's this like very like serious, because even after when he pulls up next to the girl, she's like sitting there crying and everything like that. Like it's like totally having like flashbacks of like how horrible this incident was. But such a weird way to deal with it.
Like that's honestly one of my dreams. Actually, is to see Hulk Hogan try to chase somebody in a motorcycle in real life
and then slam him into a tree.
Yeah. Like, I don't know, like, that scene is just, it's magical. That's just cinematic history.
Well, that scene defines this movie as being, like, walking the line between being a hard drama and being, like, a goofy comedy at the same time and not really, almost confused on which direction we're supposed to lean.
Yeah. Well, I don't get too, like I know his brother Randy goes to watch the Battle of the Tough Guys to go watch Zeus. I'm just like, why the hell are you going there? You know this guy wants to kill your brother, and you're gonna go just to see.
And then of course his friend's like, you know, that's Rip's brother. It's just like, shut up.
Yeah.
Of course, that stupid friend gets him led into like getting beat up and then being like crippled.
Yeah, I know, like that's because it's really quick. It's like, yeah, you got your ass kicked. Now he's in the hospital bed in a wheelchair.
He gets pushed into like the ringside at the very end.
I love that.
You know, what was another weird cameo I saw on there is like, okay, when I can't remember what the bad guys' names are, but pretty much the executive producers. I guess the quick and easy story of this is you got Rip, who's Hulk Hogan, and he's pretty much top star of the WWF. And then there's a competing television network, and they're the ones that try to want to top it. So they try to buy Rip, and of course he's not sellable. So they go after, like, they start a new show, which is really just underground fighting. It's not even like wrestling anymore. But they go to like this bar and just figure out, like, oh my gosh, here's this brutal sport that we could just sell on TV, and that's what will be our competition against the WWF.
And the names that the people just happen to have, like the guy who happens to be a mechanic is named Lugrange. It's like, oh, that's what a coincidence.
Well, yeah, exactly. And they really just pick a bunch of like blue collar guys that just want to like let off steam and fight each other in some underground like competition.
Which I can't blame people. I'd rather honestly watch that than WWE or UFC. So
Exactly. Well, it was almost even like proto UFC. They had like an 8-way ring and everything like that too.
yeah, they had
The octagon.
Yeah, I was like, I noticed that actually. I had never noticed that until recently. I was like, oh,
So
whoa.
I'm like, well, it's like, you know, and even TNA, so like, there was like, here's the prototype of that, because you didn't really, I don't know when I would have saw that beforehand.
No Holds Barred was revolutionized
Yeah,
the future
started-
of sports and entertainment.
But when they go to that really, really like rednecky bar or whatever, where they're called gay the second they enter from the woman who's always like, feels like she's gonna spit the hugest loogie and never does. There's like, when they're sitting down ringside there, and I like the way that ring looks though, because it's got like the ropes and everything like that, and there's like tires for turnbuckles and so on. Like that looks really cool. But there's like the little guy up there at the top throwing peanuts or whatever down there. It's like, and I was like, oh my god, that looks just like Peter Dinklage. There we go. Peter Dinklage. And I was like, and then I tried looking up online. It's like, well, his name wasn't in the credits, and I couldn't find it on there. And then I found like a handful of sites that said it was, but then I found a couple sites that said they didn't think it was. There was like no like 100% confirmation, but I was like, to me it looked just like him. Some guy was like, I can't believe anybody would think that looks. It doesn't look a spitting image like him. Like, are you kidding? It looks just like him.
You probably just assume it looks just like because he's a midget, so you're like,
Well, no,
oh,
because
well,
he doesn't have his beard. He doesn't have his trademark beard that he always seems to have nowadays. But he looks just like a younger guy, and it's like he was born in '69. So come on, it probably could be him.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's weird. It wasn't on his IMDb page, but I saw a handful of posts that did say it was. So I'm not too sure, but if it is, that's still a cool cameo, anyways.
I think we need to dedicate a lot of research to find out who the midget was in No Holds Barred. The story.
I did. Right beforehand, I was putting it in. I looked at about like 6 articles to try to see it.
I can tell you're way more prepared. You have a nice binder of notes, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm just gonna wing it.
That's okay. This is the way I kind of look at it. It's like, you know, we're doing the regular retrospect that I know how to do, but, buddy, it's like almost if it was like a Pawn Stars episode. They're like, you know what? We're doing this wrestling thing, but I gotta call in an expert, and that's who you are. I pull you on in as like the guy who knows even more about wrestling than anybody else I know.
Yeah, I have it's always weird. Like I notice I have such a huge wealth of probably useless knowledge that I'm not ever really gonna need in my life to know. And like I was like, I find it weird. Like I can't remember much. Like especially stuff in my work. It's like, yeah, I can't remember. I talked to a guest 2 weeks ago. They check in like, buddy, it's good to see you. I'm like, hey man, and like, but then you'll be like, hey, what event was that in WrestleMania? I'll be like, oh yeah, WrestleMania 3 happened at this place. There was 92,000 people there. It's like,
this is the date.
Why do I know this?
That's kind of how I feel in Left too. It's just there's certain things that you kind of gravitate towards that you care more about remembering than others, and so on. But yeah, that's like kind of how it is. Just like the knowledge of it. It's like that's okay. It's like I like remembering dates. Like wrestling myself, it's like I always feel my favorite thing about wrestling is like, I like it almost in like kind of like the season sets and like the stories of it. Like when they started making those documentaries about all like the different eras of wrestling and the different groups and the different characters, I was like, this is awesome. I almost like this more than even the wrestling itself. It's just like the storylines of it. Like I love the wrestling books. I like any of that stuff. Like that's like my favorite parts of all these things. But and there's always like I've said this before like on the podcast that I think the reason what always gravitates me more towards like wrestling and why I really don't care for other sports other than wrestling is because it's the story element.
Yeah.
I feel like if there was a story maybe going on in like football or baseball, I would care. But without story and characters, I realize I just don't care.
Well, I think even UFC's like knows that, and they definitely implemented it. Because I remember watching UFC a long time ago, and it only had a few pay-per-views here or there, and it was just like, yeah, like there's no stories at all. It's just like, hey, we're gonna have a tournament to see who the top fighter in the world is. No weight classes either at the time.
Yeah.
And now it's just like chock full of like vignettes of people talking shit to the other guy. I'm like, oh yeah, I wonder where you got that from. And it does piss me off because I grew up with TJ Dillashaw, who would always be like, oh yeah, like I hate that. Like they shouldn't have to like sell the show. And then now I see him doing the same thing with Cody Garbrandt. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, like, well,
And see, that's the thing is, even in the UFC, I wish there was just a little bit more character in it. I know, obviously, this is the reason why people like UFC over like wrestling, is because it doesn't have character, it's very bland, and it's easy to take in. But I feel like I want to see him come out there, like, I want him to come up on the mic and just start like trash talking before the match begins. I want to see him like in some wacky outfits even. Like not just like shaved head like white guy versus shaved head Mexican guy and little like tank trunks. I want to see like some like more character involved. That's what I feel like.
And it sells. I mean, it's proven. Look at Conor McGregor. There's a reason why he's
yeah.
the top
See, he's like
dog in
he's like
UFC,
one of the only guys that feels like he's a character. In
yeah.
You know, what I mean, a lot of the other guys just feel so generic.
And even with boxing, there's a reason Floyd Mayweather is
because he's a character.
The top gross, not just because he's the best ever, because he is, but he talks a lot of crap, and
he's also been in WWE.
Yeah. He made $2 million to wrestle the Big Show for 30 minutes.
Yep. Which is like such a weird choice. It's like, let's get the Big Show to wrestle him.
That match is so good. I love it. I remember at that time, like, that's when, like, that was a big thing at the time. Internet, like, forums were becoming more and more and more. And I remember, like, watching a lot of the fans were just like, oh, like, I hate this, like, the sideshow stuff. Like, I want to take my wrestling serious. I'm just like, well, whatever. Like, who knows? It might be fun. And then I watched it. I was like, this is amazing. Like, it was actually really enjoyable. And then still, like, people were like, no, it sucked, bro. They should have had wrestlers there. It's like, yeah, well, maybe, but that wrestler might not have just sold as many tickets as Floyd Mayweather did.
Well, because that's the thing, is you're going to get boxing people probably would never have bought a WWE pay-per-view. They're going to buy this pay-per-view. Mm-hmm. You know, that might be the only one. So I think it's funny when people don't get the celebrityness of, like, bringing that in. Like, I like that kind of stuff. Like, when Alice Cooper comes out in WrestleMania 3, that makes my day.
Well, and even with the UFC, like, going back to that, like, when Brock Lesnar returned, like, that last year, 2 years ago, a lot of people were really mad, but it was a top-grossing UFC pay-per-view in, like, 3 years.
Yeah.
So
go figure. You know, I think it's like sometimes people don't get that. It's like almost they try to call themselves like purists, but I feel like they're almost like destroying the brand when they don't realize it's like, you know, every once in a while you need something that's just a little bit different to sell it. It's kind of like how No Holds Barred is, I guess. I guess by that standard you are going for something that's a little bit different. I do think it would have been kind of interesting just to see if they would have had like just like, let's just say you had 3 of the big guys at the time. Like, do you think the movie would have done a little bit better maybe if that was the case?
I think so. Like, 'cause I mean, like, it's hard to say because like at the time, like literally the brand was Hulk Hogan, and they had people like the Ultimate Warrior and Randy Savage at the time too. Yeah. But I don't know. I don't think they were as big of an honest like box office draw as Hulk Hogan was. So it's hard to say.
Yeah, because there is kind of that, and then you almost even kind of funny if like Roddy Piper was in there, because I feel like you got some of these blue collar guys. Why don't you just use him as one of them? Yeah. And so, because a lot of these guys they pick too, almost like they don't really even help the image of wrestling because they're like so like overweight. It's like, and this movie has like more grunting and like screaming than like any movie I think I've ever seen in my entire life. Yeah. There's a lot of that in there.
Well, that was the time, you know, like at the time, like wrestling, you wouldn't necessarily always watch it just to see a guy in shape. It would just be like, yeah, this guy's a good wrestler. He doesn't look that way though. Like Billy D, the guy who was Jake Bullitt, and like Stan Hansen, who looks terrible, but that guy was so damn good.
Well, because that goes to show that a lot of times just because like your body doesn't look good, that doesn't mean you can't be super athletic. You know, it's like Doug Hepburn from the old like strongman back in the day, like in like the 40s era. It's like you kind of look at him, especially compared to like, you know, bodybuilders and stuff like nowadays, and you just kind of like he just kind of looks like slightly overweight. He looks big and strong, but you know, you don't think about it. But that guy could do all kinds of weird feats. I mean, he could do like one handstands and all kinds of stuff like that.
Yeah, I can't do any of that.
But so there is kind of that, and yeah, and that was like really even too. It's like you think about wrestling, like they didn't really get to that bodybuilding start. There's only like a few guys that did in the 70s, and then the 80s it didn't really start happening till a little bit later even. So.
Yeah, like I think Jesse Ventura.
Jesse Ventura was definitely one of the first, but it was
Billy Graham.
Yeah,
man.
Billy Graham. He was the
one.
He was the guy who had the body, had the look. You know, everything that most wrestlers copied for a long time.
So, I mean, there was people that were in shape before him for sure. But he was the one that everybody was like, whoa, this guy.
I think it's almost like, once I think Arnold Schwarzenegger became kind of famous, then it's almost like, well, how about you look like that, but you wrestle? And I think that's where it kind of like came from almost.
Because it's weird, like, even like before, even like the Arnold times, Arnold's like mid-70s, if I recall correct.
His bodybuilding career is like late 60s, well, I guess you could say any 60s to about like... technically 80. 80 is his last one. Yeah.
Because I remember, like, he talked about it in one of his, he was doing something for WWE. He was saying when he watched Bruno Sammartino at one of the bodybuilding contests, and Bruno was one of the judges, and he was just, like, shocked because he knew how strong Bruno was, but he was like, he's just a big guy. Like, he's not, he's not perfectly chiseled and all that stuff. But whereas compared to Arnold was, but he's just like, I was so scared of Bruno because he's so big.
Massively scary. Well, I think that's the thing too. It's like, and at that time period too, I think like these characters, like you kind of look at them now and like on No Holds Barred, and it almost doesn't like. It's weird how like you almost like times have changed where it's like that doesn't really look nearly as threatening. But I think like in the '80s, it's like a big guy like that was like, oh god, he's gonna like flip over your car and like do more than just like take your money.
Well, yeah, I think, I think definitely, like, kind of touching on those people, like, that changed the game for wrestling for sure, because now pretty much everybody's in shape, and everybody's really, really ripped.
You almost have to be, like, a character.
Yeah.
It's like, if you want to be slightly overweight and have a different look. Because even, like, even in the early 90s, that started to go away, you know what I mean? Like, people like, Yokozuna had that, but it's like, he had the sumo wrestler style, so that was okay.
And
plus,
he was a super athlete despite
oh my god, he could do so
pounds.
many things that like a lot of the other guys couldn't even do.
Yeah. Yeah, but even like then, like, I mean, well, they had a lot of good people back in the early 90s too, like Bastion Booger and Mantar. I don't know if you remember, do you remember Mantar? Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. The memories from Mantar.
There's so many good things like that. But it's kind of funny. It's like, one thing I do is, I don't know, I was so glad to see Jesse Ventura and No Holds Barred. I kind of wish he was in a little bit more. He was only in the beginning.
Yeah.
And then Mean Gene was there too, which I thought was awesome as well. But it's like, and it's kind of weird because I didn't expect it to actually be, it's like, oh, they're at WWF? I thought it was going to be like a fake organization or something like that.
You would think so, yeah.
And then it's like, because I remember it's like, they really called Jesse Ventura by his name. I'm like, well, that's weird because you're not calling him Hulk Hogan.
Yeah. I always wondered why they did that, actually. I don't know, because like, I think that maybe they were trying to like make a different brand to make extra merch or something, maybe. I'll be honest, if I were to find a Rip'em shirt, I'd probably buy it.
Oh, I think I would, yeah.
But I don't know, like, it seems like it'd be so easy to just be like, yeah, it's Hulk Hogan. Especially considering that they ended up tying Zeus into real WWF storylines anyways.
Yeah, when he came back for 3 matches and to try to do something. It's so weird, it's like, they had the idea that like, oh my god, this Zeus in this movie's going to do so well, we can tie this all into WrestleMania 6 and it'll be the main match. And then I'm kind of glad they pulled back on that, kind of realized. Yeah. I think it's like, they realized the movie wasn't nearly as up to par as they thought. Because I read something where it's like they were going to like tie it together that you bought the pay-per-view and you could do like a double feature of like the movie and WrestleMania 6.
The one thing, like, going back, and it just randomly came to my mind, there's another amazing line. There's a really good question that the guy asked, Hulk Hogan asked in that movie, when he said, what's that smell? But the way he says it, he's like, what's that smell? While he holds the guy up. And
like, Donkey!
So ridiculous.
So weird. It's just, you see this guy where he like peed himself, and the next thing you know, it's like, because you don't even see that very often in movies.
Oh, that's...
I love that part where like Hulk tries to get captured by that limo driver guy, and then he just starts like breaking the seats and tries to break out the doors, and then when they finally pull up this area of a bunch of like gangsters that are gonna like beat him over, like Hulk jumps out of the roof and it like explodes. Like for some reason he couldn't kick the seat forward or kick the door out, but somehow, some way he was able to go straight through the roof.
Well, I like how he's kicking the door so hard that not only is it like denting in the door that's covered with steel plating at this point, but it's causing the driver to like swerve off the road,
drive like a maniac
because of how strong Hulk Hogan's kicking the car.
I know, and I just love how it's still like at this time period where like people like are not in the know of wrestling. Which this is the one thing that like for all those years that they kept it a secret. The one thing that I feel like would always break that thing, that where somebody would be like, wait a second, is the second that when they go like, oh, you can't place a bet on here. Well, what do you mean I can't place a bet on here? Well, it's just not a wrestling thing. You know what I mean? Like, that would have been the part where it's like, well, why can't I place a bet?
And because they let people do it now.
Do they really?
Yeah. So, like, people were betting for, like, it's going on for, like, past, like, 3 or 4 or 5 years, but, like, people were betting on the Royal Rumble and for WrestleMania. And I always looked at it as, like, really? Like,
I mean, I can see if you bet, like, your friend, like, in a kind of, like, a fun
but,
thing.
like, no, I'm talking, like, Vegas bets.
I didn't think that's so. How does that even work? It's like it's literally betting on like that's like taking like a TV show and betting on like what's gonna happen in the next episode.
Yeah, can you imagine like you do it with The Walking Dead, like
who's gonna die next?
Bet that Daryl dies this week.
Like you got like a chart where you're putting your money at, you know, to like see to like who lives and who dies.
It's weird. I always think like because I don't bet on it, but I do think it's kind of rigged. Because I'll pay attention to this stuff just because I'm like kind of curious. But you always notice stuff. Like I noticed like a couple years back, it was like, oh, like who do you think's gonna win the Royal Rumble? And then out of nowhere, like this year, actually, like even like the bets all of a sudden, like, oh, Daniel Bryan's the favorite to win per the Vegas bets. It's like, what? So I honestly think somebody that works inside WWE is probably just like, hey, like, and kind of giving people tips and stuff.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. Though it's like that. That's such a weird one that they allow that to be. I could see, as I said, I could see underground weird things like that, or bet amongst friends. You know that somebody back in the day probably bet on wrestling their entire life, and then like one of those days in like the 80s, they learned that 100% they was like, oh, it's not real anymore. You know, that'd be like, I spent all my money on somebody's script.
We did, man. I remember back when WrestleMania 15 was going on. It was Stone Cold versus The Rock. It was a big one.
It was a big deal.
And it was definitely split. I think we had like 7 or 8 guys at this house. And we were all just like, there was like 3 of us who liked The Rock, and the few of us liked Stone Cold. Mm-hmm. And at the time, I was the Mankind guy. At the time, I was the weirdo. I don't care about these. I want Mankind to win. But I remember like everybody, we were all placing bets on it, and I was just like, this, like, I don't even know, like, why are we doing this? We know it's fake, but like, it was like it's a different time. Like, you legit didn't know, like.
Well, that time, because there's no real way. And honestly, if it's amongst friends, I can see where that'd be kind of fun to do. Because it's still like, you don't know the outcome. I think that's still worthwhile betting. I just feel like in a legal way, like in a casino and so on, it's like, how do you like...
It's weird even looking back now, because like I think like then, you know, we were just so like not as cynical, I guess. Because like now if I were to do it, I'd probably sit with a few friends and be like, well, like we'd chat about it first and be like, yeah, you know, I really want this person to win, but I get why they would have this guy go over, because from a business point of view, it makes sense to have, it's like, what? Like,
yeah, you don't have like that, like, almost like team spirit like you once did. It's more like, well, let me see here. Let me calculate this one out. I think this guy has more of a chance because these other guys have won so many times before. Why would they do that again?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I have team spirit for Braun Strowman like crazy right now, but I know he's not going to beat Brock Lesnar if they ever face at WrestleMania. So
just that's not who they want to have. They don't want to have poor Brock lose to him.
Well, no.
But no, it's just you know what's another part that's kind of funny? It made me kind of laugh in this movie too. It's like when they have that. This also goes where they're trying to walk that weird like drama / comedy line, and they have that scene where like Hulk and I can't remember what the girl's name is in the movie, but
I don't even know.
Like, I don't even know. I kind of looked her up, and she was just in a bunch of like random like made-for-TV and like shows and so on. But they have the scene where it's like, oh, they only gave us one room with one bed. And it almost felt like a sitcom because like Hulk's getting out like tape, which I don't even know how this is really the most practical way to do it. And I'm like, because at first when I saw him pull up the tape, I'm like, is he going to do like that thing like the old-fashioned sitcom where he like literally tapes down the middle? But instead what he does is he hangs a curtain up, which seems like, I don't even know how that holds. That's what I was kind of wondering the whole time. He puts like a curtain across the bed or whatever.
I just love watching Hulk Hogan run around the apartment in his underwear in that ripped up tie-dye tank top.
Exactly. He's got some of the best outfits in the movie.
It's amazing. And like the flirting is so awkward in that movie. Like some of the lines like that he says is just so ridiculous.
And when he goes to sit on the bed, he just like a leg drops on it and it like breaks and she shoots up and flies onto him.
It's so good. I love when she wakes up and you can tell she thinks he's like having sex with somebody or something.
Or jerking off.
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
Because there's like this sheet and you just hear.
Because he's doing push-ups.
He's doing them off the bed for some reason. Like he's doing incline push-ups off the bed. Like there's no other object in the room he could have used.
No, dude, you gotta use the bed, brother.
You gotta use the bed.
Yeah, you
I guess that's before he broke the bed too, because then he breaks the bed. I think right after that. Actually, yeah.
Well,
there's a weird scene too, because when she opens up the curtain and looks, you just see this very close shot of his feet, and it's like, if that's such a close shot of seeing those heels, you're like, what is that object?
I didn't know what it was. I was looking at that. And I mean, I've seen the movie so many times now, but I was like, even like watching it now, like when I was like, what is that?
It's like he's doing push-ups.
Well, because it's supposed to be like 5 or 6 in the morning, and I can just picture like if in real life that conversation, like if I were to share the night with you guys, and like I could picture you be like, "What are you doing?" I just be like, "Oh, I gotta get my chest pumping, brother." like what else would you be doing? Like,
yeah, just like wake up, your push-up routine.
That's how I want to wake my roommate up now. Actually, like I'm just gonna like burst his door in and start doing
push-ups on his bed
loudly too,
and do them really fast too, like.
I can't do that.
I can't even. It's weird for me to work out. It just doesn't feel right to work out that fast.
No.
I just feel like something bad's gonna happen if that's the case.
I weigh 250 pounds. That doesn't get pushed up very fast.
I also like in this movie too. It's almost like, by using sort of like this like very like redneck scene for like, it's like, okay, Hulk Hogan's. He's still like classic Hulk Hogan, but when you get all the other wrestlers, they're all just a bunch of like crazy looking guys and like redneck guys and stuff. It almost doesn't even like help the wrestler image. Maybe that's still what they're going for. It's just like a bunch of psychopaths that you would never trust. Like time period.
And it makes me laugh because I always think like when I think back at like stereotypical wrestling fans, like I really, really get annoyed a lot of the times I'm at a show and there's like other wrestling fans, and I just people watch and I observe and I let them listen because like I don't want to talk to them because I get annoyed. But when I think of like a typical wrestling fan, I think of like people just like kicking back on the couch with their feet up on the chair, beer in a hand, chips in the other.
Yeah. And
like that's pretty much what you see in that movie, and with chewing tobacco too.
You gotta have a lot of chewing tobacco.
You can't forget that chew.
You know what's one of the best parts? I love whoever designed that totally trashy redneck bar. The best part is when those two guys go in there. Like one of those guys, I always think of, he's like in City Slickers.
Yeah.
Like, and so is the older black guy that's with Hulk Hogan too. That happens. This is my favorite part. When he sees another black guy on TV, he happens to already know who it is. Like they're all distant relatives.
Well, naturally.
Just like, oh, I know who that is. I trained him back in the day. Would you believe it?
What do you know?
He killed a man in prison, or he killed a man and went to prison.
And you could tell that guy was a really good fighter too back in his time. Because at the end, when he had to like fend off the evil executives, it didn't even look like acting. It just looked so real the way he swung that fire extinguisher right in the gut.
But going back to that part in the bar, I love how when they go into the bathroom, there's like a guy, like before they even get to the bathroom, there's a guy just like peeing like next to the phone. It's not a phone booth, it's just like an old-fashioned payphone. He's just peeing there in the hallway. And it's just, they go back in this like bathroom so dingy and so dirty, and as they're like looking through, there's like the sinks all destroyed, and there's graffiti on the wall, and there's like this big old picture that says, "Wash your hands, the government wants you to," or something like that. And as they kind of look, there's like those kind of like trough urinals that like you only see like in the old western towns nowadays. You don't really just see it anywhere normal. I don't know why. They should bring that back. I think there's a lot more like unity there. We don't need those little walls separating us.
No.
And then I love how it pans farther right and there's just a dog chained up in this bathroom. I think that's like the best part of it all. It's like what tops it off more than anything else. There's just this dog in there that's like all violent and deranged.
Yeah, that whole scene, that and like it always, I remember really grossing me out as a kid, and even now, still watching it, like was one of the troughs like is like supposed to be clogged, it's just like completely filled and like pouring out piss.
Like nobody's cleaned this thing in years.
But if I were to see that in real life, I'd be like, why? Like, why hasn't somebody been in here at least?
Nowadays, I feel like you couldn't get away with like a business like that nowadays. How long do you think a business is gonna last if that's the case?
Well, when I took our road trip to Washington a few years ago, I forget what town we were in, but we went to a bar that had a trough for the bathroom. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. But
I always think of like Columbia, because Columbia has those too.
Do they really? I haven't been to a bathroom there in a long time.
And now also, if you go to
No, I don't know.
this has like nothing to do with anybody out there in the world except for us. But if you go to the Sonora Courthouse, they have it there too.
Really? Oh, I was actually just there to get my passport, but yeah, I didn't.
You go to use the restroom, they got one of those troughs in there. And it looks like nobody uses because they also have a regular urinal too.
I'm just gonna ask to go in there just so I can use the bathroom now.
It's like, I don't know if it's on all the floors, but I know it's on the third floor one. But those trough ones are kind of cool. Just anyways.
Now I want to do that. Like when the person's like, "Hey, what can I help you with?" I'm like, "No, it's cool. I'm just gonna use the bathroom. Third floor, right?"
Want the trough?
It's like one of those things. I need to see it now.
I know, exactly. Just something like that.
Life goals, dude. Like I said, bucket list items. Like there's Egypt trip, piss in a trough.
Piss in a trough. It's just one of those ones, you know.
It's right up there.
And then, go to those kind of wrestling. I like when you go to a wrestling match nowadays, too, and there's sometimes you get those audiences that feel like they're still not in on it. Mm-hmm. Like, they still feel like somebody hasn't let them know that, like, oh, yeah, by the way, this is kind of scripted. Because, like, to me, it's, like, fine, like, scripted, that's totally fine. I know for some reason people think that's weird. I'm like, no, it makes for a better show. You know what I mean? Like, I get it. It's just, like, why you like movies or why you like storytelling and so on. But there's always those people that, like, sometimes have, like, no idea what's going on. And I feel like the in-match and No Holds Barred is, like, that perfect example of, like, people are just in here to see, like, some death and murders. That's what they're all there for. And their nice, fancy suits. Like, I was thinking about that, too. It's like, do you think people nowadays ever go to any wrestling show, like, not, maybe there's a couple people, but for the most part, like, dressed up that fancy?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so.
You can watch old like '80s like WCW and NWA and stuff like
that. Isn't their suits?
Everybody, it literally looks like everybody like just like they just got off work. They're dressed nice. They're here to relax after work and watch some wrestling. And it's weird though. Like if I was listening to Xbox podcast with Kevin Sullivan on it, and he was saying like in Mexico when he goes and wrestles, like he's like the people still believe like they know it's fake, but like they really think that it's still real a lot of the times. And he's like, we love wrestling there because it's just so different and it's way more intense and.
I've always heard everything good about Mexico wrestling, like always.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's not. I don't know what's going on most of the time. Like because they have weird rules, and I just haven't wanted to take the time to learn them. Honestly, we should just go on like a Mexican road trip and just go watch as much wrestling as we can throughout Mexico. We should just go through the entire Mexico and just like go to different places and just see what it's like from like top to bottom. Yeah, and see how long we last. I'm down to go to Mexico. Like. We'll blend right in.
We will fit perfectly. We'll just really dress like Hulk Hogan it up as we go down there, so we fit in properly.
Well, I have
do-rags and neon colors and.
I even have I have a red, white, and blue do-rag actually. It has like pieces of flag all over it.
Just all freedom enough down there.
They love Americans down there, I heard, so.
It'll be perfect. It'll be like going to the South and like going to like wrestling where like people are, you pretty much see like 95% like really white people.
See, yeah, like
The exact opposite. We'll be the minority walking in.
I think it'd be fun, honestly, to go to a show like that. I don't know when it's going to happen, if ever, but like, man, I think it'd be fun to go to a totally different area than experience something way different like that. It'd be a lot of fun.
I think that'd be cool. It's like always like, I bet you it'd be awesome to go like Japan and watch wrestling too.
I would love that. Like, it's weird. Like, if you watch it, it's the fans are just very different. Like,
yeah, they're very like proper lots of times too.
Yeah, like they're pretty quiet until there's a big spot. Then you hear like, oh, like.
It's not like almost like we're watching one of the '89 matches where they brought Zeus in and it was Macho and Hulk and Brutus Beefcake, which made it totally awesome. And it's just like that audience, like in the '80s too. It's like they are just grateful to see anything. It's like
So
they're
intense.
cheering the whole time. It's like just constant like excitement. It doesn't matter what's going on. They're excited.
I miss loud crowds like that so much. Like nowadays, like when the crowds are loud now, it seems like they're more loud because they're trying to put themselves over and be funny and make cute little comments or like. Just, I don't know, like, I guess try to, like, overtake the show a little bit. And
yeah, well, I remember seeing that, too. It's, like, people like that. And then also I feel people are almost, like, so, like, picky and judgmental about, like, what they like in wrestling. And it's almost like they get this kind of cynical view of it instead of just enjoying whatever is happening.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. It's like, yeah, you look at that old time, it's like, you're just grateful to have whatever it is there. And that's what's really cool.
Well, I agree. And it's a different time for sure, but it's a time before, you could look up on the internet and be like, hey, like, well, I wonder what's going to happen the next few weeks, or like who they're talking to and know all the backstage dirt and stuff. I hate, like, there was a while I was definitely that fan. I wanted to know everything. And I don't look at dirt sheets at all anymore. So like everybody's like, oh, hey, did you hear that WWE signed so and so? Nope.
I think it's best to not do that. It's like there's something to be said about not cheating yourself. It's almost like just because we have the internet doesn't always mean you necessarily should use the internet.
Yeah.
There's certain stuff that I feel in life that was almost like pre-internet was just a little bit cooler, sort of. And it's like, I think wrestling was one of those ones, like, there was something special kind of before the internet. Kind of like video games. I think video games are kind of better before the internet. Like, when you couldn't just, like, look anything up and know exactly how to do something, where you almost had it, like, you were forced to think, or the worst case scenario, you had to call your friend up and see what he did, Like, I was, like, I look at, like, Zelda Breath of the Wild. I know it's kind of, like, off topic, but, like, imagine getting that game in, like, 1992, when you didn't have like anything, but you would just come to school every single day and just go like, dude, look what I found this last night. I think that kind of stuff's cool, and that's almost how like with wrestling, like I even feel the same with movies. Like I don't even like sometimes like when trailers and stuff come out, like I'd rather just wait for the trailer to come when I'm in the movie theater.
Yeah.
I like that experience more. Just be like, oh, whoa, what the heck? They got this coming out. That's awesome.
I agree. Like I hate like I'm on Facebook pretty often, but like I hate like when I'll see like somebody's like posting the new trailer for this movie came out. I'll never watch them because I want to see it in the theater. Like I don't know, like yeah, it's neat if you sit and stare at it from a 6-inch screen, but I'd rather see it on the big screen.
Yeah, the big screen. I mean, sometimes like okay, there'll be certain movies that I know that probably aren't coming to theaters. That's a little bit different. You can watch those trailers, but it's like if I, it's like you got the new Star Wars trailer. I just want to see it once it comes out in the theater. Like I'm not gonna like cheat myself. That's how I kind of feel, and it's almost with other things too. It's just like.
I remember the first time that I ever saw wrestling spoilers online. It was honestly by complete accident. Like, 'cause I remember I wanted to say, I don't know what I was pulling up. I think I was trying to pull up like what town it was in. So I remember it being in California, and I was trying to see like if we'd be able to go. And then I saw spoilers, and I was like, wait, what? Because at the time, I looking back, I know now that WWF Raw was pre-taped, but I didn't know that back then. Like, I didn't pay attention to WCW enough because I guess WCW gave away their results.
They used to give away their results.
I didn't even know that because I don't remember it, but. Like, I remember, like, seeing it, I was like, wait, what? Like, Mosh is gonna beat this guy? What the hell? Like, and I remember, like, I literally remember Headbanger Mosh was in a match. That's all the results I remember. But I just remember being like, wait a second. Like, and I felt, like, dirty almost. Like, I don't know, I shouldn't be looking at this.
I know. Well, I always felt like that.
I'm gonna go look at porn instead, but I shouldn't be looking at these wrestling spoilers.
I always thought that was kind of weird, like when WCW would kind of give out like that. To me, felt like talk about like going for the lowest blow you could kind of do. I mean, I get why they do it because that definitely at that time period was like anything that could get you that extra point in the rating system, do it. That was like all it was about. Like the '90s was like a horrible time period. Like I love looking back at '90s ads because it doesn't really matter what it is. Everything in '90s was a competition, and it was all about putting the other person down. It didn't matter what it was. You got Sega versus Nintendo. You got WCW versus WWF. everything in the 90s. I mean, geez, even music was like that too, whether it was rock, whether it was rap, whether it was anything, everything was against each other. You had to pick sides.
Oh, yeah.
There was no, you can't really have it all. I remember watching wrestling, and I would do the thing where it's like, I'd mostly watch WWF in the 90s, but then I'd do the thing, it's like, well, I'll flip over to WCW. If a commercial came on, I was like, well, let's just see what's going on here really quick.
Well, you had to.
It was like, I'm not going to watch a commercial, but then it'd be kind of like, well, 35, or 2 minutes are up, I guess I'll go back, see what's on WWF.
It's funny you mentioned ads, because if you watch some of the stuff throughout the WWE Network, you'll find, every now and then they've left in ads. And, so I swear to God, you'll randomly watch a Raw from, I notice it's only on the Raws, though, that I've noticed, at least.
Uh-huh.
Well, I'll be watching Raw from 1993, and there'll be old-ass Hot Pocket commercials in there.
I'm almost kind of glad they leave those in there, because it's weird. When you watch TV, in the present, ads are the worst thing you can possibly imagine. But I don't know what it is. When you go back and then you see an old ad from the, in the olden days, I always think of just when you'd have tape videos off TV and you're just I'm not going to cut the commercials out. That sounds like work. I'll just tape the whole 3 hours or whatever.
That was a lot of work to do that. I remember trying to
Sitting
do that.
there oh, click,
Good time
stop.
is right.
Okay, get ready for the record. But it's almost not even really worth it. I mean, I guess it kind of makes it nice when you go back to watch, you don't have to fast forward it, but I almost loved when it's
We're showing our age with that comment.
I know, exactly there. We're trusting the timer on the VCR.
Yeah. That
was always the worst one. It always failed you. I don't know what it was.
Always.
The timer just either the power would go out or something. The next thing you know, it won't be working. But just when you catch those old ads, it's one of the coolest things ever. Even especially at magazines too. I love flipping through and finding neat old ads. Whether they be for wrestling, games, movies, anything like that. That's always something cool. Mm-hmm. But at the present, you're stupid ads, get out of here.
And it's funny you talk about the competition too, because did you ever see when WWF did the Billionaire Ted Wrestling War Rooms when they were making fun of WCW stealing all their people?
Oh yeah.
So funny, and they're hilarious.
Because then they have all the fake versions of the wrestlers.
Yeah, they had a really fake old Macho Man Hulk Hogan and Mean Gene, who's called Scheme Gene. So they had the Huckster and the Nacho Man.
The Huckster, that's right.
I just remember in one of them they showed
Nacho Man.
All we got is these has-beens from the '80s, and they're like, we need you guys to do this stuff, and they'd show Shawn Michaels doing a moonsault. And the guy who was the Huckster was like, no way, brother, at my age, my feet don't leave the ground. I'm just like, man, that's so obvious what they're doing.
Well, that's the thing, though. It's that, it was just weird. There was just that time period where they just didn't want you to be looking at anybody else's product. It's so weird. Because nowadays, I don't feel I'm not saying there's not competition, but it just doesn't feel like there's hard lines. No, you make the decision. It's not just Sonic the Hedgehog standing there with his arms crossed. What are you going to do? You can't have both.
Well, nowadays, especially, not so much now because WWE has no competition. WWE has
because they bought everybody out.
Well, for a while there, TNA, I remember they were starting to make some ground for a while there. But I would notice they would constantly bash WWE oh, we're the alternative. We do this. And WWE, they would mention WWE by name and say yeah, we they're gonna do this with their stars, but we're better. Mm-hmm. And WWE was okay, not a single mention of them whatsoever. You if you were only a WWE fan, you would not know TNA existed. Where if you watch TNA, you'd be like, oh yeah, that's right, I like this not WWE. They'd constant mentions every time that some guy would go over there from WWE, they'd be like, yeah, I left because I was held down, brother. Triple H held me down. He didn't like me. He didn't like this. No, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
And then 2 months later, somebody else in the same story. It's yeah, I get it.
And I think the smart thing by WWE is just don't mention it. Don't even talk about it. Why? You know what I mean? That's almost the thing. Which I feel that was almost TNA, that they pulled kind of the same downfall, that it's almost they didn't look at what WCW did, because then they started doing the same thing WCW did, where they're paying all this money for all this cool talent, and then they start doing it on the same day as Raw or SmackDown. It was
yeah,
what are you guys doing? It's because even WCW, it's they probably would. I get it. You want to have, and it's the '90s. You want to have this war. I mean, No Holds Barred is almost the perfect start to what's going to come, because that's exactly what this guy wants. He wants to have competition. Mm-hmm. He wants to be the best. He wants to have the war against WWF, and he's got. What's his He's got the most generic TV station name. I can't remember what it's called. It's Super TV something.
Yeah, I think honestly,
it was somebody literally that was a hold name that someone had in the script, and then they just never came back and changed it or something.
I think I don't know for sure, but I think that was honestly probably a play against Ted Turner at the time too.
I think so too, because that would have been right when WCW started trying to really compete and whiff against it. I mean, I like old 70s. And kind of early 80s, wrestling, when every sector of the US had its own channel and its own unique group and so on. There's something cool about that. That's something I feel it is a little bit of a bummer that doesn't exist as big as it once, I guess you could say, did. Because really nowadays it's I mean, yeah, you can go to small shows, of course. There's always that thing, but it's either WWE, and that's generally about it as far as the big thing goes. There's not really another other little sector that you can kind of watch.
Well, and it's interesting because like right now, independent wrestling is actually huge on the rise. Like I when I drive down to PCW in LA for those shows, like there's like I guess like 300 people there, and it's packed.
Yeah,
it's completely sold out and packed, and like there's a group in Japan, the Young Bucks, and they're doing a show somewhere. I think it's going to be in California, but they're renting out a 10,000 seat arena to host a one-time show. I'm like, that's pretty cool. Like, but I mean, it's hard to say because it won't be WWE's level. But like, yeah, there's definitely a market for.
Well, and I think
outside.
the thing too is like, it's just like anything. There's always a sector for like the little guy group because no matter what, you always will get a good seat at one of those shows. You'll never be stuck like way far up in like nosebleed seats or anything like that. You know what I mean? Like there'll be the effort, there'll be the energy, and you'll get kind of like they'll be doing stuff that you might not see on WWE, especially at the moment. So I mean, I think that's the same reason why people were so attracted to ECW at the time, and even like even WCW and WWF. There's like a big difference between each one of those shows. That's what I kind of liked about it. It's like each one did not feel all the same. You know?
Yeah.
It felt like you almost had WCW, which was like almost like an extension of the '80s, but with the attitude kind of like vibe. And then WWF was trying to be almost like as modern and '90s as you can get, but it worked in different ways. You know,
I miss the early cheesy characters like the Goon, and we mentioned Mantar already, but I like the Mantar, Fantasio. Fantasio was awesome. He was literally a magician. Doink the Clown.
Yeah, Doink the Clown's great.
The Repo Man.
I like the hardcore characters that they once had, like, you know, because I mean that was the whole point in the '90s, was like the turning point. Like, let's do like they're just real people, you know what I mean? They're just a guy now. It's not like he's a character anymore.
Yeah, like they had I remember they had a trash man, and they had the big boss man was the cop.
Yep.
Nails was the convict that escaped. There's so many. Like that was a better time. I think I miss the characters.
I like the characters. Don't get me wrong. Like I actually like the Attitude Era almost just as much. But like the characters, there's something fun about that.
I remember really because we mentioned TNA. I remember really thinking like for a second when they changed their day to Monday, and they had Hulk Hogan debut on that particular Monday. I remember thinking like, ooh, like this might be some pretty big competition. And I remember like being so excited because I'm a big Hulk Hogan guy.
Yeah.
So WWE tried to counter that by bringing Bret Hart in that night, and then I remember being like, "Well,
did Bret Hart wrestle that night?"
No.
As I said, I didn't think he wrestled anymore after the stroke.
He had a couple matches, but it was like very protected. I just remember being like, "Well, like God, it'd be cool to see Bret Hart again, but I'm a Hulkamaniac brother, so I better watch this." And I remember just instantly realizing I was like, they are just gonna dump a lot of money because they like on the one night they brought in Hulk Hogan, Jeff Hardy, the Nasty Boys, and like 4 or 5 other people showed up too. I'm just like, like Ric Flair. I'm just like, how much money is it costing you guys to bring these guys in? It's not needed.
Well, the bummer thing too is because at first it was a nice network for like kind of like smaller and mid-range guys that kind of build their way up, and then it kind of just got overburied with like all like the old-time guys, which is still cool, but like kind of sucked if you wanted to build your way up now because now you're like C-list roster.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like I enjoyed it for sure, but let's be honest. In 2010, I don't really want to see a pay-per-view main evented by Mick Foley versus Ric Flair. Like,
it's just kind of one of those weird ones there.
I remember watching, being like, well, that's kind of cool. Like, and then another one like in 2012 was main evented by Hulk Hogan versus Sting. Like. And that one was amazing because it's Hulk Hogan's thing. But
yeah, exactly. I don't know. What if they bring back Hulk Hogan and Zeus? Is that guy still alive even?
I don't know.
We kind of asked that question earlier.
If only we had some wealth of knowledge at our fingertips to be able to pull that kind of stuff up.
I know. Oh, my computer's sitting over there, but you're already way ahead of me there.
I'm on it.
But still, okay, hypothetically, while you're looking that up, did you see the pay-per-view match of the return of Zeus? What if it was Zeus and Hulk Hogan with to play his character as Rip?
That'd be amazing.
You know
I'd absolutely watch it.
If Mick Foley can have multiple characters, why couldn't Hulk Hogan?
I think, if they were to bring Zeus back as like, like even if it was just something like a small cameo, like when they do the Andre the Giant Battle Royal every year at WrestleMania, if they were to bring him back for that, like they had Shaquille O'Neal wrestle it, so why not? Like if they were to bring Zeus in for something like that. I think they'll put Zeus in the Hall of Fame though of one day.
I think they should because it's one of those ones. I know that some people be like, like those wrestling purist people be like, oh, but he's not a real wrestler and things like that. It's like, yeah, but he's still like a pivotal point of like the wrestling like tree of growth. You know what I mean? Think about it. If No Holds Barred, one of those big first WWF movies. I mean, I know it's not. Maybe like in hindsight, or I mean not hindsight. At the time, it doesn't seem like the biggest thing, but later as life kind of goes on, that is still like a big movie, I think, and just a wrestler's kind of view.
Yeah.
It feels like one of those movies like, if you're really into wrestling, you got to watch that movie at some point.
So it turns out Tiny Lister is still alive. He's 59 years old.
Oh, he's not even that old.
So he's 6'5" and 310 pounds. His last official weigh-in. That's a big guy.
I think he's got to come back. I think we got to come back and have that match.
I think it's not too late.
Yeah, I think you can. Because even the nice thing too is that Rip's Hulk Hogan's like special in that one is an easy one for him to do. It's not the leg drop. It's just the over the top, the double hand.
Yeah, the double axe handle.
Yeah, double axe handle. That's right.
Yeah, he wouldn't, because I think that's one of the big things from like. I would love to see another Hulk Hogan match. I don't think it'll happen, but
yeah, I know.
Man,
I always gotta feel bad. Whenever I feel bad for him, I was like, oh, he's gotta pay for somebody now.
Yeah.
One of his kids spent too much money. He's got to go back in the ring.
I don't know. I just don't think his old hips can handle doing a leg drop.
I don't think the leg. That's what I mean. Is like that's one of those moves that just gets him every single time.
Because it's weird. I remember even around WrestleMania 21, I think it was, when he showed up after he got put in the Hall of Fame. He showed up and he did a few punches and he did the big boot, but he didn't do the leg drop. And I remember thinking like, oh man. And that was 12 years ago.
Well, I remember in his book that the one that came out like 8 years ago or something like that, maybe by now. Like, that was the one where he talked about, it's like the leg drop was took such a toll on him. Which is weird because it's like, you kind of look at those moves, and they never look like, they're like, oh, that looks like the most simplest move when you really think about it. But it's funny, like, a lot of times it's the really simple moves are the ones that get you more. Like, you can watch something that Jeff Hardy or Matt Hardy does, and that probably takes less of a toll on your body than the Hulk Hogan's leg drop, though the leg drop looks so much more simple than that.
I love, too, like, I always hear a lot of people who will talk on the wrestling forums. They're always like, oh, like, that's such a weak-looking finisher. Like, that should be able to hurt anybody. I'm just like, at the time, Hulk Hogan weighed, I think, like 320 pounds. I'm just like, so if a 320-pound guy drops his leg on your face, you don't think it's going to hurt? Like,
yeah, let's just say, like, that actually sounds like a pretty good one.
Like, yeah. In hindsight, I mean, gosh, let me try it out on you. See.
I mean, come on, The Rock has the people's elbow. That one always felt like even a little bit lesser one.
Yeah, that's just a quick little elbow to, like, I guess, I don't know, like, I guess if you, like, really tried to, like, explain it a lot, like,
yeah, because, like, well, the pinpoint of the elbow and so on, and since there's, like, less, like, circumference of where it's hitting, so it's going to hurt way more, and plus he gets to run back and forth, because going against the turnbuckles really was what charges it up.
Well, then he does that little spin, he does that little spin in the juke, and that, gosh, that just adds a lot of power to it.
But boy, No Holds Barred, that was a fun movie.
Oh, 10 out of 10.
It's so good. Like, it's just one of those movies, like, even if it's not like even if someone would go like, oh, it's not really the best movie, it's like, yeah, but it's still fun. And that's the thing. At the end of the day, it's like having those fun movies. Like, I just really wish Hulk Hogan was in more stuff.
I do too. I wouldn't say it's the best movie ever made, honestly, but
no.
Top 5. Top 5.
Top 5. It's still pretty good. It's up there with the rest, I'm just saying.
Well, so like to me, it's probably even top 3. Gosh, it's gonna be Creed, Rocky 4, No Holds Barred.
Exactly.
But even that's hard.
What about Rocky 3? Rocky 3's got it.
Rocky 3, Rocky 3 is really good too. But see, then you have to add an Avalanche Sharks, and that's a great movie, and Ghost Shark. So
you got other competition there for what it is.
But No Holds Barred might have to settle for top 10 now that I think about it.
It's still up there. I don't know. Thunder in Paradise. That's pretty good.
I need to see those. I haven't seen those ones.
You guys see the book? Well, we gotta do a podcast on Thunder in Paradise at one of these points because that movie's great.
Because
Hulk Hogan's got like the worst fucking sidekick.
I would ask to borrow them, but you probably wouldn't get it back for like 2 months. So.
Do you have a VHS player?
Yeah.
Okay,
do,
good.
Actually,
as long as you do, then you're set to go.
I have to find it, but I got one somewhere.
But yeah. So make sure to check out one. Well, I guess this should all tie in together with the Retro Slam Masters podcast.
Brother.
That's right, brother. You gotta check out the Retro Slam Masters podcast this Sunday night.
I'm like coming over a cold, so if I were to try to do the voice, it's gonna kill my throat.
I know. I get kind of used to it. I make sure to live in the cold, then you can know. But then also, of course, oldmanorange.com for more podcast, animation, comics, and videos. Till then, I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
I'm Buddy.
And we will see you some other time.
Yep, sounds good.
Thanks again for listening to the Old Man Orange podcast. Be sure to check out oldmanorange.com for more podcasts, comics, animations, videos, and a whole lot more. You can easily support the show by buying something from one of our Amazon links on the website or in the show's description itself. Doesn't cost you a penny, but every single thing you buy from there just by using that link to take you to Amazon helps us out a bit. You can also really help the show out, though, by spreading the word the good old-fashioned way. And rate and review us on all the sites that you find this podcast. Anything from iTunes to Podbean to Newgrounds, YouTube, you name it. Any little bit helps. Give a sub and share it to your friends, family, any jamoke you see out on the street. You let them know about Old Man Orange Podcast. And be sure to check out the Old Man Orange comic book Pizza Boys on both Amazon and Comixology. Till then, we'll see you some other time.